If you're considering doing a triathlon this year and you're not sure if you could or you should do a triathlon, and you're coming up with a lot of reasons why you're not sure about that, I've been there. I've been through just about every single excuse that you could possibly have. Today we're going to talk about why I think that every single person out there can do any distance triathlon. Now the excuses that we're first going to start off with are what I call bullshit excuses. Now these are excuses that absolutely everyone might think about, but absolutely everyone can overcome. The first excuse is that you're not built for running. Well, I've got news for you. Does this guy look like he was built for running? No, that was me almost 10 years ago. I was so out of shape. I couldn't run the length of about 4 or 5 houses. I couldn't run to a stop sign without getting shin splints. There are a lot of people that have difficulty with running. It's not a big issue. So here's the thing about running. Absolutely anyone can do it. The problem is that you got to get through probably about 2-3 months worth of suck. Now if you get through those 2-3 months worth of suck, running becomes a lot easier, a lot more enjoyable. Number 2 is I'm not a good swimmer. Just about every triathlete, unless they're coming from a swimming background, feels like they're not very strong on the swim. It doesn't matter how fast or how good of a swimmer you are, it really isn't going to matter in the end of the race. What will matter is if you can just get yourself through it without freaking out. So it's not about becoming a good swimmer to do a triathlon. You really have to just be comfortable. I'll put a link to a video that I did right up here and in the description below that'll help you out with how you can get comfortable in the water and get you started in triathlon. The third excuse is that you don't have any of the gear. You could spend thousands and thousands of dollars if you start out in triathlon thinking that day one you need a wetsuit and a road bike and a triathlon bike and an aero helmet and aero wheels and triathlon shoes and a triathlon kit. Bottom line is, for your first triathlon, heck, for your first year in triathlon, you don't actually need that stuff. Really, all you need is a pair of shoes, a pair of shorts that you don't mind getting wet in the water, and a decent shirt. Beyond that, you can rent a wetsuit, you can borrow a bike. So to get into the sport of triathlon, maybe it's $100 or $200 worth of renting some gear, and that's about it. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars to get into the sport. The fourth thing that might be holding you back from getting into triathlon is that you don't have enough time. If you're even the slightest bit active, if you have maybe an hour every other day, 2 or 3 times a week, that's more than enough to get into triathlon. That's all it takes. It doesn't take that long to get into triathlon. So if you're thinking that time is a limiting factor, just try one out and train for it minimally. You'll be surprised at how little training you can do to get through that first triathlon. Okay, now we're gonna get into the excuses and the things that we tell ourselves about why we can't do a triathlon that I would say are completely understandable, but also they're very easy to overcome. Okay, for the first excuse, well, the 5th overall, is that we couldn't dream of swimming and biking and running for that long. Now, here's where you can get over that very easily, is by going into an entry-level triathlon. There are some triathlons that only take about 40 or 50 minutes, maybe even less, a sprint or a super sprint. So if you want to get into triathlon, but the distance is a big concern of yours, then go into a very, very short race, really just to rip the Band-Aid off and see how it feels. Now the 6th thing we tell ourselves is that I've never done anything like that. I'm not sure if I can do it. Bottom line, yes. You can do it! Whether you got 2 healthy legs, you got a bad heart, you got 1 leg, you got no legs, you're in a wheelchair, you're sick, you're injured, you're tired, everyone can do a triathlon. It's not that hard. Go as short as you need to, train only as much as you're able to. If you really just want to get into triathlon, you can do it. This then rolls into the next excuse that a lot of people tell themselves, is that they're not fit enough and healthy enough to get into triathlon. And this is something that I completely understand, because 10 years ago when I first started getting healthy, I was about 65 pounds heavier than I was today. I had absolutely no background in what healthy eating was. I wasn't able to run to the end of the block. I didn't own a bike. I hadn't been on a bike in about 20 years. I had only barely made it past just don't drown level 1 and don't drown level 2 as a kid, so I wasn't a very strong swimmer, and I was not even close to fit enough to attempt a triathlon. Every first race is going to be a disaster, and I've got a video that I will link up here and in the description below to how it can be less of a disaster. But if you really want to get into triathlon, it doesn't matter how fit or healthy or studly you are, you can do it. Okay, now this last group of concerns are things that are very, very valid issues, but they're things that I think triathlon can actually help you with in your day-to-day life. The 8th thing that you might be telling yourself is that you're afraid of the water. I completely empathize with this because I was actually afraid of the water when I started swimming. Now here's the thing about triathlon is that the more you do it, the more you're gonna have to swim. Eventually, the more and more I swam, the less and less I was afraid of the water. It's not like I was actively trying to be not afraid of the water. It just kind of went away until a couple of years ago when I realized, hey, like I'm totally cool with this. The 9th excuse that you might be telling yourself is that you've got long-lasting chronic injuries or something like asthma. That's certainly going to make it harder for you to do a triathlon, but there's no reason that you still can't. One of my most frequent training partners uses a puffer, and he's one of the best age group athletes in the province, if not the country. So a buddy like that, who I see every single day reaching that amazing level of fitness, it just lets me know that whatever your difficulties might be, you can always overcome them. And you might not be that level of national age group triathlete of the year kind of winner, but you can certainly be your best, most athletic self. Just try to be your best you. That's all you can be. Now the last thing you might be telling yourself is, I think, the most fair thing that you can tell yourself, and it's that you're just scared to try. Well, let me tell you something. Triathlon is a very, very humbling experience because it's so difficult. The benefit to that for people who are unsure of whether they even can attempt a triathlon is that there are so many people out there that are just like you that aren't that sure about whether or not they can do one. And being surrounded by an entire community of people that are just like you, trying to become a little bit better as athletes, a little fitter, have a little bit more fun, it'll make you more confident and more willing to take on challenges in your entire life. So I would highly recommend either joining a club, gaining some friends, getting a training group that you're regularly surrounded by. It's going to make your training a lot more enjoyable, and it's going to make your life a lot more enjoyable. So that is the A-Race Taren Triathlon Pep Talk for 2016. I really hope that you get into the sport because it is a fantastic sport. If there's anything that you're unsure about, you can comment below. You can check me out at Instagram or Snapchat at A-Race Taren, and we can talk and I can help you out with getting started in the sport. But if that's all good and you're ready to enter your next race, as always, kill your next A-Race. Douglas, there you go. The most eligible bachelor in the world right here.
I'm just Douglas.
Just Douglas? Just being the most eligible bachelor in the world, that's all.
I got blue eyes.
Oh yeah, those are lady killers, those blue eyes.